Okay, so like everywhere you turn these days, right? It's all sustainable packaging, this and that.
Yeah.
On labels, websites, you name it.
Right.
It's like the buzzword of the century.
It's everywhere.
But for you, listening to this, this isn't just some, passing trend.
Mm-hmm.
You're really in it, dealing with this stuff.
Absolutely.
So you need to know, like, is this the real deal or just a bunch of hot air?
It's a jungle out there, and it's easy to get lost.
Totally. And that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
To help cut through all that noise.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got this company, GreenFlow, popping up on your radar, right?
Yeah.
And they're claiming they've got all the answers.
Of course.
Now, your website, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's got that whole we've got you covered vibe.
It's like that in this sector, we've got the solution.
Right. Big promises, but we're going to see if they hold up, right?
We got to see if they can back it up.
Exactly. So they're throwing around key benefits like it's nothing. Yeah. Sustainability, compliance, versatility.
The whole shebang.
Cost efficiency, environmental impact. It's a lot.
It's a lot to promise.
But here's where I think it gets really interesting for you, and that's that whole cost efficiency bit.
Ah, yes. Because who doesn't love saving a little?
Right. Who doesn't love saving money?
Exactly.
But it's bigger than that, right?
Absolutely.
We're talking about streamlining your waste, how you handle it all.
Streamlining efficiency, yeah.
Freeing up your resources.
So you can focus on what matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's music to any business owner's ears, I'd say.
For sure.
But let's dig a little deeper into this one-stop solution idea they're pushing. They outline their whole process on the website. Waste audit, collection, recycling and recovery, eco-friendly disposal, reporting, and documentation.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty thorough, but...
It does sound comprehensive.
Right. We have to go beyond just the fancy word.
Absolutely. You got to look deeper. It's not just about what they say, it's about what they actually do.
Exactly.
A lot of companies, they only handle a small piece of that whole process,
Right, right.
They might just do collection or focus only on the recycling part.
They're specialized.
Exactly. GreenFlow saying they handle everything.
The whole thing.
From start to finish, the whole shebang.
And for a business like yours, I bet you've got a lot of packaging waste, right?
Oh, especially if they're dealing with all sorts of different materials.
Different kinds of stuff.
That's where this could be a game changer.
It's huge.
Think about it. No more juggling different vendors.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Different contracts, different schedules.
Oh, yeah, headaches.
GreenFlow's pitch is all about making it simple.
One system.
Yeah, one streamlined system instead of a whole bunch of moving parts.
Okay, so far so good.
So far so good.
But let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Let's do it.
We've got their FAQs here, and I think some of these questions are really speaking to what you need to know.
Okay, let's hear them.
First up, how does GreenFlow ensure compliance and safety in regulated waste disposal?
Big question.
Huge, right? And they say they follow strict protocols, use advanced techniques to make sure everything's safe and follows the rules, no matter what kind of waste we're talking about.
Okay, that's what they all say, though, right? Strict protocols, advanced techniques.
Vague.
It's vague. Without knowing the specifics, it's hard to know if it's really as good as it sounds.
Totally agree. Vague promises aren't enough.
Definitely not.
Next question. What types of waste does GreenFlow manage? And what specialized disposal methods are used? And this is where it gets interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
They're saying they handle a comprehensive range of waste.
Like what?
We're talking hazardous waste, industrial waste, chemical waste, even medical waste. And they really emphasize using cutting-edge technology and processes that are all about sustainability and safety.
Okay, hold on. Cutting-edge technology is a term we hear a lot.
Right.
But what does it actually mean in this context?
Right. Is it actually revolutionary or just a fancy way of saying they use, modern equipment?
Yeah. It's like saying you have a super fast car. Is it a Tesla or a souped-up go-kart?
I like that analogy.
Both are fast, but they're not in the same league.
We need details.
You need specifics.
Before we get lost in the weeds, though, they mentioned this partnership with One Tree Planted.
Okay.
They plant a tree for every service they provide.
So for the planet, right.
It's for the planet.
Tree planting is everywhere these days.
It's trendy.
It's trendy, but it's a good thing.
Right, right.
It does make you wonder, though, how do they figure out how many trees to plant? Is it based on the actual environmental impact of their services?
Right.
And where are they planting these trees? Are they native species? Are they actually doing something good for biodiversity, or is it just for show?
It's easy to get caught up in the feel-good stuff.
It is, yeah.
But you're right, it's got to be about real impact.
Real, measurable impact. Not just checking boxes.
And speaking of impact, they make a bold claim about their waste treatment.
Oh. What's that?
They say they achieve zero emissions.
Now that is a statement.
Right.
Achieving zero emissions in waste management, especially with everything they claim to handle, it's really hard.
What are they actually measuring and how? That's the question.
Exactly. Every process has some kind of environmental impact.
Right. It's unavoidable.
So when they say zero emissions, what do they mean? Are we talking carbon emissions specifically? Are they offsetting their emissions somehow? We need more information.
Transparency is key.
Absolutely. Don't just take their word for it.
Right.
Look for the details, the methodology.
How are they backing this up?
Exactly. That's how you separate the real deal from greenwashing.
I'm with you 100%. Now let's talk compliance. They offer audits, regulatory guidance, even staff training on all those waste management laws.
It's a lot.
They're really positioning themselves as the experts in navigating all those regulations.
Which, to be fair, can be incredibly valuable.
Oh, absolutely.
Those regulations are a maze, constantly changing.
It's a full-time job just trying to keep up with it all.
Exactly. It's a huge burden for a lot of businesses.
They even have a dedicated compliance team. Did you see that?
I did.
They keep an eye on legislation, all the latest changes. Could be a game changer.
Could be. But, and there's always a but, right?
Right.
We need to ask, how good is this compliance team?
Right. Was their track record?
Do they really understand the regulations in your specific industry?
It's one thing to say you have a team.
It's another thing entirely to have a team that can actually deliver.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've looked at GreenFlow's claims, their process, their whole approach to sustainability, compliance.
And remember, this is just the starting point.
Exactly.
Our goal here is to give you the tools you need to evaluate this for yourself. Because ultimately,
it's about finding the solution that works for you, for your values, and for your budget.
100%. So we're getting a feel for their whole thing, but how does this actually work in the real world?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, listening.
Because the value of a company like this really depends on your specific waste stream, you know?
Totally. They mentioned handling everything from those LDPE plastics.
Right, the flexible stuff.
Exactly. To good old cardboard, which, let's be honest, feels like it's everywhere these days. Cardboard is king.
Right.
And each material, it's got its own challenges when it comes to recycling and disposal.
Oh, for sure.
LDPE, for example, tricky one.
Really?
It's recyclable, but it often ends up in landfills anyway. A lot of recycling programs just don't take it.
Interesting.
So if GreenFlow can actually keep that stuff out of landfills and get it recycled properly, well...
That's a big win for everyone.
Big win for sustainability, yeah. And potentially for your bottom line, too.
Less waste, lower costs. I like it.
It's about finding those win-wins.
Exactly. Okay, so we talked about the materials, but what about those cutting-edge technologies they keep mentioning?
Yes, the buzzwords.
Right. I need something concrete here.
I hear you. They're a little light on specifics on the website, I'll admit.
Yeah.
This is where you might have to do a little digging yourself.
Okay, what should I be looking for?
Well, there are companies using some really cool stuff, like AI-powered scanners that can sort different plastics, even if they're all mixed together.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Talk about efficiency.
Exactly. Or think about chemical recycling. It's a newer technology, but it can break down plastics that are normally really hard to recycle, turns them back into their base components.
Wow, so they can be used again.
Exactly. It could be huge for dealing with plastic waste in a whole new way.
Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah.
But all of this fancy tech, it's got to come at a price, right?
Yeah.
How does that line up with their whole cost efficiency promise?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It all boils down to cost-benefit analysis.
Right.
Yes, some of these technologies require upfront investment, but those costs, they might be offset by things like lower landfill fees, access to higher value recycled materials,
right.
Maybe even tax incentives for going green.
Right.
It's about looking at the big picture.
And having peace of mind, knowing you're not contributing to that giant pile of packaging waste.
Exactly. It's not just about the bottom line.
Totally. Speaking of the big picture, let's go back to that zero emissions claim. I'm still a little skeptical, I have to say.
Healthy skepticism is a good thing.
Right.
It's important to remember zero emissions is often used to mean net zero emissions.
Okay, what does that mean in plain English?
Basically, it means any emissions they produce are balanced out by removing an equal amount from the atmosphere.
So like planting those trees?
Exactly. Or investing in renewable energy projects, carbon offset programs, that sort of thing.
Okay, so it's more like balancing the books.
Exactly.
Gotcha. But those strategies, They're not without their critics, are they?
No strategy is perfect,
Right.
but they are becoming more and more common as companies try to shrink their environmental impact.
So for someone like me, someone who's listening, it all comes down to transparency, right?
Absolutely.
Do they actually explain how they achieve zero emissions? Is there data to back it up?
Exactly. If they're claiming to be carbon neutral or net zero, they need to show their work. Otherwise, it's just greenwashing.
Right. And nobody wants that.
Nobody benefits from that.
Okay, so we talked about their tech, their environmental claims, but what about compliance?
Ah, yes, the wild world of waste management regulations.
Oh, get me started.
That's an area where a company like GreenFlow could really shine, especially for businesses that are already drowning in paperwork.
Oh, tell me about it. Mountains of it.
Yeah.
And the jargon.
It's a lot to handle, and the regulations around packaging, they're not getting any simpler.
Yeah, feels like they change every other day.
Governments are cracking down on plastic pollution, pushing for a more circular economy, so those regulations are only going to get more and more complex.
You're preaching to the choir.
And they mentioned having that dedicated compliance team, right?
They did.
Now, that could actually be really valuable.
Okay.
Because a good compliance team, they're worth their weight in gold in this industry.
Huh.
They're keeping up with all those changes, interpreting all the legal mumbo-jumbo, and making sure your business is in the clear.
That sounds amazing. No more scrambling to understand the latest law or worrying about getting hit with a fine for missing something.
Exactly. Peace of mind.
Right. But, of course, the devil is in the details, right?
Always.
What does GreenFlow's compliance team actually look like? Do they understand the specifics of your industry? Do they have a good track record?
Right. How do we even know?
Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions.
What?
Ask for case studies, client testimonials.
Okay.
Maybe even talk to other businesses that have used their services.
So it's like checking references, but for, trash.
Exactly. You wouldn't hire someone for an important job without checking their references, right?
Yes, sir.
Same principle applies here.
That makes sense. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We've barely scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah, there's always more to uncover.
So what now?
Well, this is where your own research comes in.
Okay, so I've got homework.
Think of it as an adventure.
So where does that leave us? I mean, we dove deep into GreenFlow's whole spiel.
We sure did. Looked at their claims, their process, their take on sustainability and all those regulations.
Right. And we try to break it all down so it makes sense for, your business.
Because at the end of the day, there's no magic bullet, no one-size-fits-all answer here.
Totally agree. It's about finding that perfect fit, right?
Exactly. It's about your needs, your values, and of course, your budget.
Can't forget about the budget.
No, you can't.
And the thing is, this whole sustainable packaging thing,
Oh, yeah.
it's not static, is it? It feels like it's always changing.
Constantly evolving, new tech, new rules, new demands from customers.
So how do you even keep up with all of that? GreenFlow, they make a big deal about staying up to date on all the latest waste management laws.
They do. They want you to know they're on top of it.
Which on the surface sounds great, right?
It does sound good, yeah. You want someone who's paying attention to all that.
But, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here,
I like it.
what if those laws change drastically? Like really change the game?
It's possible.
Or what if some new tech comes along and suddenly GreenFlow's way of doing things is, well,
outdated.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's not enough to just find a solution for today.
You got to think long term.
Exactly. How is your business going to adapt as all of this keeps changing?
That's the key question, isn't it? And it all starts with asking those tough questions, doing your homework.
Due diligence?
Exactly. And maybe even being a little skeptical, Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. Look for solutions that fit your vision for the future.
So it's not just about finding the perfect solution right now. It's about finding a partner who can change with you as you grow.
That's it. That's what it boils down to.
Finding someone who gets it, who's in it for the long haul.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, remember, sustainability, it's not about checking boxes. It's bigger than that.
Right. It's about your whole business, how you operate.
It's about creating a business that's responsible, resilient, can thrive in a world that's constantly changing.
Well said. We've given you a lot to think about today, a lot to consider as you navigate this whole world of sustainable packaging, but that's what this deep dive is all about. Until next time.